Imagine you're taking a high-stakes exam, like maybe the TEAS or the HESI nursing entrance exam.
Well, the pressure's already on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, maybe you're just writing a really important email to your boss and you're reading over a sentence and you get completely tripped up by one tiny, seemingly harmless word, a pronoun.
It happens all the time.
It really does. It seems so simple, right? It's a word you use 100 times a day when you're just talking. But suddenly on paper, it feels like a trap.
Well, because it kind of is a trap.
Yeah. And the truth is, these tiny little placeholder words are actually the source of fierce linguistic debates and, massive test day panic. And as we're going to see later, real-world medical disasters.
Yeah, it really is deceptive. We throw these words around constantly, assuming our meaning is totally obvious to everyone else.
Right.
But the moment you look closely at the mechanics governing pronouns, you realize the machinery of the English language is, well, it's incredibly complex, and in some cases, surprisingly fragile.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today, for this deep dive, we're pulling from a huge stack of all the major grammar style guides.
A lot of material.
It is. But our mission here is simple. We are going to master pronoun agreement. We want to figure out exactly how to match pronouns to nouns to keep your writing crystal clear.
I love that.
Nah.
And to lay the groundwork, we should probably just define the core concept first.
Yeah, let's do the basics.
So, pronoun-antecedent agreement. At its foundational level, it just dictates that a pronoun must perfectly match its antecedent. And the antecedent is simply the original noun or the noun phrase that the pronoun is replacing.
Okay.
And they have to match in 3 specific ways. Number, meaning singular or plural. Person, meaning first, second, or third person. And gender.
So if I write, the surgeon grabbed her scalpel, the word surgeon is the antecedent, right?
Exactly.
And her is the pronoun. So they agree perfectly in number, person, and gender.
That is the basic rule, yes. But I really want to stress that this isn't just about passing a grammar test or memorizing some rigid formula.
Right. It's bigger than that.
It is. It's about clear, unambiguous communication. Because a pronoun is just a proxy. If the proxy doesn't accurately reflect the original noun, the reader's brain have to work overtime to figure out who or what you're talking about.
And I think the reason this feels so confusing for you today, especially if you're a test taker, is that one specific pronoun rule is causing a ton of confusion.
Oh, absolutely. The singular they.
Yes, because we are essentially caught in this linguistic tug of war. The rules for singular pronouns seem to be like shifting right under our feet.
What's fascinating here is that the history of this specific rule completely shatters the illusion that grammar is just a list of eternal, unchanging laws.
Right.
The English language is organic, and it changes based on how people actually use it.
But see, I was always taught, very strictly taught in school, that if you don't know the gender of a singular person, the absolute unbreakable grammatical rule is to write he or she.
The classic he or she construction.
Yeah. Every applicant must submit his or her resume. And using they for a single person, that was presented to me as this, modern slang invention that just ruins the mathematical logic of the sentence.
Well, you're not alone. That was the standard textbook construction for the entire 20th century.
Right.
But if we dig into the linguistic history papers in our sources, singular they is not a 21st century invention at all.
Wait, really?
Not even close. It actually has a documented history in the English language stretching back over 700 years.
700?
Yes. We see it used as a singular pronoun in the 1300s. Geoffrey Chaucer used it.
Wow.
It appears in the 1611 King James Bible, and Shakespeare used it frequently. A phrase like, if anyone calls, tell them I'm out, that predates the United States by 400 years.
Okay, that completely flips the script. If Shakespeare used singular they and everyday English speakers just used it for centuries without a problem, where did this incredibly strict rule demanding he or she actually come from?
We have to look at the 18th century for that.
Okay, the 1700s.
Right. English grammarians during the Enlightenment period became totally obsessed with Latin.
Huh. Why Latin?
Well, they viewed Latin as this mathematically perfect, pure language of scholarship, and they wanted English to behave exactly like it.
But English isn't Latin.
Exactly. English is a messy, organic Germanic language.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, these grammarians started imposing Latin-style logic onto English syntax, and they decided that a singular antecedent fundamentally required a mathematically singular pronoun.
So wait, because they worship the structure of Latin, they essentially just shoehorned the male he into English grammar? just to make their linguistic math work out?
That is exactly what happened. In 1745, a very influential English grammarian named Anne Fisher published a book called A New Grammar.
Okay.
And she actively pushed the generic he as the only proper stand-in for a person of unknown sex. She essentially engineered a rule that did not previously exist in everyday speech.
Wow.
And because her book was widely used in schools, that engineered rule just became the standard.
It is genuinely wild that a stylistic preference from the 1700s just became this ironclad law of grammar. But it didn't just stay in the classroom, did it?
No, it didn't.
Our sources show this preference actually bled into the legal system.
It hardened into a legal mandate. The British Parliament eventually passed the Interpretation Act of 1850.
Okay, what did that do?
That act explicitly ruled that in all legislation, the word he legally included she.
Oh, wow.
Right. Think about the mechanics of that. Parliament had to literally legislate a grammar rule to settle the inherent ambiguity of the language.
So it wasn't a natural evolution.
Not at all. It was a constructed convention that basically mirrored a society treating the male perspective as the universal default rather than, a neutral fact of language.
And it is so fascinating to watch how major style guides and dictionaries have documented the pushback against that 1850 standard.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you have traditionalists who want to maintain that strict 18th century singular rule just because it feels orderly, right?
Right, the prescriptivists.
Yeah, exactly. But then you have linguists in the 1970s specifically, Casey Miller and Kate Swift. They published this landmark book in 1976 called Words and Women.
A very important book for this topic.
Yeah, and they pointed out that the generic he was not actually neutral in practice. It essentially erased women from the reader's mental image.
Right, which was a huge critique of the rule.
And then today, you have major style guides updating their rules again to reflect non-binary identities. So from a purely historical standpoint, it's just this constant evolution.
And the reaction from the linguistic authorities totally reflects that long tug of war. For a few decades, the big compromise was he or she.
Which is what I was taught.
Right. It satisfied that 18th century demand for a singular pronoun, but it also acknowledged the 1970s critique about visibility.
But let's be honest, he or she is incredibly clunky to write and read, especially if you have to use it like 5 times in one paragraph.
It's awful to read. So today, the landscape has shifted back toward history. The American Psychological Association, the Chicago Manual of Style, Merriam-Webster, these definitive authorities now explicitly endorse the use of the singular they.
Yeah, and they endorse it both for a person whose gender is unknown, like if a patient calls, tell them I'll be right there, and for individuals who identify as non-binary. I mean, Merriam-Webster even made it their word of the year back in 2019.
Which brings us to a really crucial realization for anyone taking a modern exam.
Okay, what's that?
You are looking at the third act of a very long story. You have centuries of casual singular they, followed by an 18th century prescriptive correction toward the generic he, and now a 21st century return to singular they.
That's a great way to look at it.
And that return is driven by practical clarity, historical precedent, and an intent toward inclusion.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Understanding that grammar rules aren't magic, that they actually shift based on centuries of cultural history, it helps explain why certain words act the way they do on a modern test.
Oh, definitely.
So let's look at the actual gears of the language. If a test taker is sitting down for the TEAS or the HESI A2 today, how do they beat the mechanical traps?
You beat the traps by returning to first principles. A pronoun is a placeholder. It must carry the exact grammatical shape of the thing it replaces.
Okay, shape.
Let's break down the mechanics, starting with person agreement. The most common trap here is shifting perspective mid-thought.
Oh, I see this constantly in professional emails. Yeah, someone will draft a policy and they'll write something like, when a nurse enters a patient's room, you should always verify the chart.
Yes, that is a classic structural error.
Why is it so jarring, though?
Because the sentence starts in the third person with the nurse, but halfway through, the writer shifts into the second person with you. The mental whiplash for the reader is significant.
It really is.
It is almost as if a movie camera suddenly whipped around to point directly at the audience.
It pulls you entirely out of the sentence. So to fix it, you just have to lock in your perspective. You either say, when a nurse enters a patient's room, she or they should verify the chart, keeping it entirely in the third person.
Right.
Or you just start in the second person. When you enter a patient's room, you should verify the chart. The rule is simply consistency.
Consistency is everything. Now, the next mechanical trap is honestly significantly harder for most people to spot.
Okay, I'm ready.
We need to talk about indefinite pronouns.
Oh.
These are words like everyone, everybody, each, either, neither, anybody, somebody, and nobody.
Wait, okay. I always struggle with the logic on this one. Let's look at the word everybody.
Let's do it.
That word clearly refers to a crowd. If I say everybody in the hospital, I'm talking about hundreds of people. Why is that treated as a singular noun?
Because the meaning of the word feels plural, right? But the grammatical container of the word is singular.
Okay, let me try an analogy. Tell me if this works. Is it like a box of donuts?
Box of donuts.
Yeah. If I bring a box of donuts into a break room, there are 12 individual donuts inside. That is a plural amount of pastries.
Right. Lots of donuts.
But I am holding one single box. The box itself is a single container holding a group. So is the word everybody just the singular box holding all the people?
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Yes. The word everybody functions as the single container for the group. So grammatically, it is strictly singular.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
And this distinction creates a massive trap on standardized tests, particularly when it comes to matching the verb to that indefinite pronoun.
Right, because my ear wants to match the verb to the plural donuts, not the singular box.
Exactly.
So saying everybody is here sounds correct, but if I say everybody are here, my brain immediately flags it as wrong.
Your ear catches that one, sure. But the exam trap usually hides further down the sentence, often involving both a verb and a possessive pronoun.
Give me an example.
Test takers will see a sentence like, everyone must bring their ID. Now, as we established earlier, singular they and their are widely accepted today. But the trick is the verb. An exam might give you the option, everyone have their ID.
Oh, and that looks incredibly tempting because have pairs with their in our heads and everyone feels like a crowd.
But it is mechanically broken. Everyone is the singular box. The verb must agree with the singular box. The only correct phrasing is, everyone has their ID.
Wow.
Your brain tricks you into matching the verb to the plural concept of a crowd, rather than the singular grammatical reality of the word.
That donut box analogy actually helps clarify another massive headache on these exams.
Yeah.
Collective nouns.
Oh, collective nouns, yes.
Words like team, jury, family, staff, and committee. How do we apply the mechanics to those?
Collective nouns are fascinating because they can act as singular or plural.
Wait, really? Both?
Yes. It all depends on the action the group is taking. We can use your analogy again. Are they acting together as one united box, or are they acting as individual donuts?
Okay, let's play this out with the word staff in a clinical setting.
Sure. If the group acts as a united front, it is singular. Let's say they vote on a new policy. You would write, the nursing staff raised its concerns.
Because it's one united action.
Right. Taking the singular pronoun, its. But if the members of the group are acting independently of one another, it becomes plural. The nursing staff submitted their individual vacation requests.
Ah, because they aren't filling out one giant vacation request together. Each nurse is doing their own independent action.
Exactly.
The box is basically open, and the individual donuts are doing their own thing.
Precisely. And this is a nuance that trips up a lot of writers. Oh, I should also point out a slight geographical divergence here.
What do you mean?
British English generally leans toward treating collective nouns as plural by default. So a British paper might print, the team are playing well.
Oh, that sounds so strange to my ear.
Right, but in the United States, and critically, on U.S.-based nursing exams, like the TEAS and HESI, the default is to treat collective nouns as singular units unless the individuals are explicitly acting alone. So, the team is playing well.
Got it. Okay, so we've matched the number, we've ensured the person doesn't shift mid-thought, we've navigated the gender rules from the 18th century to today. We followed every single mechanical rule perfectly. The sentence is mathematically flawless. We are good to go, right?
Well, this brings us to the ultimate trap.
There's another trap.
You can follow every single one of those mechanical rules perfectly, and the sentence can still completely fail to do its job.
Okay, let's look at the danger of ambiguity then, because I have an example from one of the style guides here. Listen to the sentence. When Sarah met Emma, she gave her a birthday card.
Okay, if we break that sentence down purely on grammatical mechanics, it is flawless. She and her are both singular third-person feminine pronouns. They perfectly agree with the antecedents, Sarah and Emma.
But practically, it is a terrible sentence. Who gave who the card? Did Sarah hand it to Emma, or did Emma pull a card out of her bag and give it to Sarah? It is utterly ambiguous.
It fails the deeper purpose of pronoun agreement. A pronoun must have a clear, single antecedent. If a pronoun could logically point to more than one noun in the sentence, the machinery is broken.
Even if the grammar checks out.
Yes, the grammar might look right on a surface level, but the communication has failed. The only correct way to fix a sentence like that is to rewrite it entirely.
You just have to use the names again. Like, when Sarah met Emma, Sarah gave Emma a birthday card.
Yep.
It feels a little repetitive, maybe a bit clunky, but there is zero doubt about what happened.
Zero doubt, and that is the goal.
So what does this all mean for you? Why is this particular grammar trap so heavily tested on nursing entrance exams?
Because in a clinical setting, an ambiguous pronoun is not just a stylistic flaw. It is absolutely. Think about clinical documentation. Shift handoffs, nursing notes, incident reports. These documents are often read by clinicians who were not in the room when an event happened.
Right.
They rely entirely on the precision of your written pronouns to know who did what or who experienced which symptom.
Okay, let's look at a concrete example of how this goes wrong. Let's say a nurse is charting quickly and writes, "The patient's daughter reported that she was feeling dizzy."
Okay, consider the cognitive reality of the clinician reading that chart at 2:00 a.m. on the next shift. Who exactly is she?
Wow, yeah.
Is the patient dizzy? Because if a patient with a cardiac history is suddenly dizzy, that might require an immediate medical intervention, maybe a change in medication.
Right.
Or is the daughter dizzy, perhaps from missing lunch, which is a totally different scenario that doesn't involve the patient's care plan at all?
So on a nursing exam, they are not just testing whether you memorized a prescriptive rule from an old textbook.
Not at all.
They are testing whether you have the analytical skills to spot a patient safety issue disguised as a grammar mistake. If you write an ambiguous pronoun in a patient's chart, someone might literally receive the wrong dose of medication.
That is the harsh reality. Ambiguous pronoun reference is a recognized category of error in medical charting.
That's terrifying.
It is. When hospital administrators and medical boards emphasize clear pronoun use, they are not being pedantic grammar police. Misidentifying who a symptom or a statement belongs to literally breaks the chain of clinical communication.
It takes a really dry concept and just turns it into an essential occupational skill.
Exactly.
So let's distill everything we've covered today. If you are taking an exam next week, or maybe drafting a high-stakes document this afternoon, here is a rapid-fire summary of the 5 key takeaways you need to hold on to. Number 1, pronouns must always agree with their antecedent in number, person, and gender.
Simple enough.
Number 2, indefinite pronouns everyone, everybody, each are strictly singular. Remember the box of donuts.
Right. And remember that the verb must match that singular container. So everybody is here. Everyone has their ID.
Number 3, if a pronoun could logically refer to more than one antecedent in a sentence, rewrite the sentence. Do not leave the reader guessing.
Yes, clarity over style.
Number 4, collective nouns are singular when acting as a united group and plural when acting individually. And finally, number 5, singular they is now widely endorsed by major style authorities for unknown or non-binary gender, and it is a completely valid answer on modern exams.
Mastering these mechanics is about much more than passing a nursing entrance exam or scoring well on a language test.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that today.
It intersects with culturally competent care, like respecting a patient's pronouns. It intersects with patient safety, and it even intersects with avoiding massive legal disputes.
Oh, absolutely.
You do not want to stray it or they in a corporate contract costing a company thousands of dollars just because lawyers cannot agree on what the word actually refers to.
It all comes down to clarity. We use pronouns as shortcuts to save time and avoid repetition, but if the shortcut leads the reader off a cliff, it defeats the entire purpose of writing it down in the first place.
I want to leave you with a thought about the cognitive science behind all of this. Think about how your brain processes a vague pronoun.
Okay.
Neurologically, when you use an ambiguous it or they in a heated argument via text or a quick email or a medical chart, assuming the other person knows exactly what you mean, you are offloading the cognitive work of interpretation onto your reader.
Wow.
You are literally making their brain burn extra calories to guess your intention. So the next time you find yourself in a miscommunication, look back at your pronouns. Ask yourself, did you actually say what you meant, or did you just leave a grammatical blank space and hope the other person would fill it in correctly?